Welcome CSC 121 to EX14 radial symmetry. This will be the last part of this, I hope. And what we're going to do with this was our final thing that we did last time. With part 2, we made basically 12 triangles that went around here in a circle. We did one first, and then we did 11 more. So that's why we had a loop that basically said for I in range 11. Now, what we're going to want to change here and what we're going to want to keep the same. A couple things we can change. I guess there's 3 things we could change. We could change the size of these so they get a little bigger, because right now they're only 20 is the size that we actually made our triangle. So there's 20 on each side. So we can make them a little bit bigger. So that'll be a variable that we'll create, and we'll use length because we've been using length for forward. And then also the amount of these going around as far as 12. And we may actually just use the odd numbers like 11 and go down from there, because since we're already creating one first and then we're doing 11, and it'll be the same thing if we do less. We won't do any more than this, but we may do less. So we can have a variable called amount that actually we can reduce the amount, and we can make that random. And then we can also do a color. We can make it be a random color as well, because we just have a color specified as red in here. So, and we're going to use random. So let me put that in here first. Let me make I'll put random in here because I did try that. I did practice it a little. And these are things we've done before, so these aren't really new things. Nothing's new. It's just we're putting it together new. If this is working, this is good. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the thing where we create a list and then do a random choice from the list. So we could do a couple lists. So rather than picking a random number, what I'm going to do is I'll call it length list, just like we do color list. And what we're going to put in our length list, we're starting with 20. So we could put 20 in there, and we could put integers in here. I'll do 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. Put 5 amounts, 20 through 60. So 5 amounts we'll put in there in our length list. And then now we still have to make a random number or random choice from this list, because that's what we're going to put in as our variable. And we'll just have random.choice, and that's a choice from a list, and then we just put the name of the list in there. So that's pretty easy. And then in the amount list, here's the amount, 11. So that's when we had 12. So we start with 1 and then whatever left over. So we're going to kind of work down and do maybe 9, 7. We'll just do the odd numbers. 9, 7, 5. Kind of not enough. Well, we have to have 11 in here too, because that'll be one of them. So that'll be good. Then we have 5 options, and then colors we could put 5 options, and maybe a cyan. And then shift quote and put the quotes on them. So we have our list, and then we could copy this. We could have, because we still need variables, so we need variables for all of these. And this variable is going to be called amount, and this will be coming from the amount list. And then we'll have a variable called, we don't have a variable yet for color, but we've been just using CLR, and we'll also do the random choice. We've done this one before. So these are our variables. So we have length, amount, and color, all being generated from random, and all separate. So they won't be all the first ones. They'll kind of do it in all different orders. They'll choose a different one each time. What we have to do now is plug these into our functions. So this one's easy. Let's do the easiest one, color. And we're not going to do random colors all around. We'll just do it so every star shape is all the same color. So it'll just be one color, like red or violet or whatever. So we're not going to do individual ones, although we could do that later, but we'll start with that. So that one's done. Now we'll do the next easy one, length. So anywhere we had length, remember we started with 20. So anywhere we see 20, we could basically plug in length. Not 120, because that was our angle for the triangle. We'll leave that. Here's negative 20. That was where we had to go back halfway. So we'll put length. So whatever the size is. And I should have just clicked right there. There it is. And here's another 20 right there. So I'll start typing length and just click on it. And that's it. Now these other things are degrees. And this will be we'll have a little work here for this one. But also for range, this will be amount. Now the problem we're going to have here, otherwise we'd be done. But the problem we have in amount is because if we had our degrees, 30 degrees was based on 360 divided by 12. Now what we have is 30 degrees and we have 30 degrees. So these are going to have to change because they're not going to be 30 degrees each time, because that's only if amount equals 11. Because remember, if the amount is 11, that means there's 12 stars going around, or 12 hands, whatever you want to say, 12 things, 12 triangles. So what I'm going to do here, before we even start this first thing, we can do an if statement, an if-elif. So we're going to say if amount, because amount can only be 5 things. So if amount equals, and let's start with 11. That's the first one we did. Then, and let's just say, I'm going to use R. I used R for rotation, or degrees, you know, whatever you want. But I'll just use R. Then R equals, now we already know it's going to be 30, but that may be hard to kind of figure out with some of the other ones. So let's say this. Let's say it's going to be 360 divided by 12. But then we're going to have to keep figuring it out for each one. So what if we said R equals 360 divided by amount, because if the amount's 11, it's going to be 11 plus 1. See where I'm going with this? Now we have to add these together first. And the reason I'm doing this is then we don't have to change the number each time. So whatever the amount is, we don't have to say, okay, 360 divided by 10, you know, to figure it out. That way we could just kind of, the next one will be 9 plus 1 and 7 plus 1. So we don't even, so if we know the amount, we could just throw amount in here. It's going to be 360 divided by 12 is going to be 30. And then down here, this is going to be R, and this is going to be R. And where it goes back again. Now we're just using R to represent that kind of rotation. You can even throw a comment in here and say R, you know, at least that you know what that is. And then what I'm going to do, copy this, make it an elif, and get rid of this. And this would now be 9. And this doesn't have to change, because if the amount is 9, it'll be 9 plus 1. It'll be 360 divided by 10, which will be R, and it'll put R in there. And it'll use R, because if it's not that amount. And then it'll use R at the end. So we just got to keep copying and pasting these now for the 7, 5, and 3. And our last one is going to be 3, which there'll only be 4 of them. It'll look like it won't really look like a star. They'll look like directional kind of things. And this one is going to be 3. So that covers 11, 9, 7, 5, 3. That covers all our amounts. And now our degrees are all taken care of. And that should be all that we need, because it was working the first time. So now we just plugged in variables for these things. And we'll know if we missed any. And things that are staying the same is the distance from here to here. We're keeping that the same. We're not changing that. So let's see what happens here. But let me run this. No error so far. And this looks like it's making, I think this one's making 10 of them, I think. And let's run it again. And it made it lime. Now it's using a red color again. This one's only using 4, and they're pretty small. And that's a little bit bigger now. And this one's making more across. So you get the idea. So it's working. We're getting different colors. We're getting different size. And the angles are changing based on the formulas we put down here. Now if we had to add any more, we would add things here. And the only thing we'd have to change is these if-else ones, because they're based on 11, 9, 7, 5, and 3. So if we had any difference in amounts, we'd have to change it here, but we'd only make more. We couldn't make any less, or you wouldn't really see anything. There would only be 1. And, you know, if we wanted to change these, we could certainly do that, and we wouldn't have to change anything else. You could make this last one, you know, you could be 20, 40, 60, 80, or something like that. If you wanted them a little bit bigger, you know, you could do that. 80. I don't even know if I'd go bigger than that. That would be kind of 4 different sizes. And there's no reason I could do 4. 4, that's fine. It doesn't matter how long my list is. It's just going to pull random ones from the list. So now it's going to have just a bigger range. You could have one that's 100, but they'd be, especially if you tried to fit 12 in there, they'd be almost overlapping. So even 80 might be a little big. And then, you know, any other color. So let's just see what happens here. See if we get any really big ones. And these are not. So let me stop it. Not yet. And we'd also have to get 80 and have to have them close together to see if it really had an effect. All right, so this is working. So that's all we needed to do. So again, what we did is we created 3 variables: our length variable, our amount variable, and our color variable. And we created them randomly from a list. So we made a length list, an amount list, and a color list. And then we plugged them in where we needed them. And the only real kind of monkey wrench we had in here was for the amount, we put that where the range was, and we just had to put some if statements because the degrees, that little kind of odd degrees, to make them change each time, we had it like minus 90 because of the 90 degrees to start making the triangle. In order to adjust that, the amount of degrees, because that's what makes this radial, is having those degrees, we had to do 360 divided by 12, 360 divided by 10, 360 divided by 8, by 6, and by 4. And that way we have kind of an amount figure that we could use in here. And then we have this R figure that is going to be R minus 90, because that's the one that kind of refixes it when it gets to here. And then also at the end, to make it face straight up, that's the thing we did here. So wherever it ends up now, whatever the last rotation is, it's going to come back. So if it was 36 degrees, it'll kind of, move 36 degrees to the left and be straight up. So that's the way that works. So everything worked out okay in here, I think. So that wasn't too bad. There's certainly more you can do if you wanted to make different kinds of polygons, but these take long enough just for these to draw. I like the little triangles, so that works out okay. I think that worked out pretty good. So that's part 3 of this, EX14. Hopefully you got a chance to even try this part. Again, it incorporates everything we've learned already. There's nothing new in here, it's just a matter of kind of using what we know and trying to throw it all together, which takes time. It takes a little time to kind of problem solve this, but hopefully this is a good exercise for you.